let's do this. Welcome to the weekly rewards sync, mid-November somewhere. And we, same as last week, we will be taking some time from this meeting, talking about one of the most important work streams within the upgrade, which is the work of the rewards committee and the work that needs to be done for managing that setting up that process, basically, to making sure that we can perform the quants once the commons upgrade is done. So we'll try to do a quite short, or rather, if you have something you really need to bring up for discussion during the status updates, please go ahead. But if not, let's keep the status update quite short, and we can move on to discuss rewards committee work, and also these two questions that I posted in the chat beforehand. So with that, I'll like to pass it to Vi for a status update of the Sourcecred bots.
So primarily the meeting tracker bot has been it's usable, but we're going to make it work with a calendar. Right now it's using the Google Calendar API, but we're going to be switching to using the calendar feed, so it's easier to work for everyone. They don't need any credentials. And yeah, the plan is that we like just extend the spot to send like a message in the server telling us like who attended the meeting, and if we are able to, this should write data to the to Sourcecred. I've looked at the Sourcecred program, but I'm still not able to get it running, so I'll probably make a test Sourcecred instance and then try and figure that out this week. And like Christopher discussed over having a way to automatically merge the identities created in Sourcecred instead of having to do it manually. So like the OneHive pollen bot came up, and maybe we can set that up by contacting someone who's built that, like someone like Hernando or Chris, who have been building it over there. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm putting the OneHive pollen bot up as a separate small work stream, because that will most likely involve like a separate person. So that is, yeah. I don't think I have anything to add from our meeting today. It was a good meeting. So next up is I'll say a few words about the backend. Rudolf is continue working on the backend. He has created the code needed to feed Prase data into the backend, and now he's working on some more backend architecture stuff. So he's continuing on pace or on schedule. And for the front end, the same status for the front end as last week. We haven't really been doing lots of work on the front end for the past 7 days, which is okay, because there's not a huge amount of work to be done. And we are also sort of a little bit waiting on Rudolf to finish some API backend endpoints before we push forward faster with the front end. But no real blockers except for that big blocker. And yeah, so I'll pass it to who would like to go, MS or Nagan, for the allocation distribution analysis part.
I can take it if that's okay. Yeah, we just we opened a repo this week and have some basic Python script running that takes the example data, puts it together, and does some basic analysis. The thing is that this kind of brought up some questions which we wanted to address this meeting, like you wrote that message there, and maybe we can take a moment to talk about it after the updates.
No, I think just go ahead and we'll take that now because there are that many more updates.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the first thing we kind of notice is that we need some, like in the example data right now, and for Sourcecred and the Prase doesn't have a single ID, which can be used in both. So how is that going right now? Did we agree on some numerical ID that gets assigned automatically, or is this a bit more in the future with this whole IDX ceramic stuff? So what's the status on that? Because if not, when putting it together, it's a bit like guessing that this Discord name is the same as this Sourcecred user, which isn't probably a good idea, I guess.
The ceramic stuff is in the future. It won't be a thing for the MVP version for the first few quants. There's no telling when that and if that will be ready. So that is still in early research phase. But the user identity, the identity, the identifier we use for Prase is the Ethereum address, and so that. I think I posted a question about that. Have you looked into if it's possible to get the connected Ethereum address from Sourcecred for an identity?
Sorry, you asked me. I didn't see an Ethereum address in the example data, but if there's one, that should be enough. But the thing is, maybe the user can change the Ethereum address, like if wants to receive payment somewhere else. So maybe it could make sense to have just one numerical ID that gets shared across Sourcecred and Prase that doesn't get changed as much, which you can update all your usernames and all your addresses, but have some unique identifier that is permanent.
And I just had a quick question to ride alongside of that. Who is the best representative to go to on the Sourcecred side? I know LB right now isn't really available. I do have an open conversation with Aloysius, so I'm connecting with them about a couple of things. So I planned on asking, but I didn't know if there's somebody specifically when it comes to Sourcecred data that we should speak with.
Ryder should be our. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say I'm like I'm not like a catch-all for Sourcecred. But like, what's the question about?
Does the raw output from Sourcecred have like a ETH address identifier or anything that we could use to coordinate the analysis with what we have coming out of Prase?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think like the answer is no, it's not an ETH address. I think it would be an API, wouldn't it? Either way, like it's not an ETH address because we're basically a Web 2 product. So I feel like I can say no on that. Our ETH address is like our treasury.
Okay, cool. So I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges then, right, Nuggin, is just figuring out how we can coordinate somebody's identity across both for analysis.
Matteo, you have been linking user accounts with Sourcecred identities. What is the identity identifier within Sourcecred? There must be some kind of unique ID, or how is it done?
Yeah, basically every identity has a number on the JSON database that Sourcecred implements, and every identity has this number at the end. Not sure if they are unique in every Sourcecred instance. I guess not. I guess they are only unique in the instance that we are talking about. So by the time that you merge any identity into one, you keep the number of the first identity that you choose. For example, if you have three, one from GitHub, Discord, and Discourse, and you go along first with GitHub, you keep the ID of the first one, of this one. So you can change all of that because that JSON is completely modifiable. You can change everything you want. So yeah. but
the
it's
whole
generated
product.
automatically. Hmm.
I just said like the whole product.
Basically, yeah.
But then you know that user Ethereum addresses are not by default registered in Sourcecred, and the identifier, the ID number is it's just a number. So for us to be able to connect a Sourcecred user with a Prase user, we would have to either match on name or have a separate list matching the Sourcecred number with the Prase IDs.
Ideally it would be another identifier that relates to the identity that we choose on Sourcecred. Ideally. Sorry, go ahead, Ryder.
That's exactly right, and I just want to say that like what keeps happening is barely being a part of this group is that people are asking questions about things that we're trying to build or that we're noticing are issues in our own product. Also realize that the people who built this have left our project and have left the people who are now working on it with like a lot of like, wow, we don't really like this product, like how it's been built. If we as developers had built it ourselves, we would have built it differently in order to work on it more properly, right? So that's happening right now. But Neo4j is the software that we're starting to use to get our data like visible and to interact with it. And so my question right now would be, can the Prase data and the Sourcecred data both be in Neo4j together? Like, can that be a product that integrates that data? Is the answer already no? Do we already know that?
I think you're using Neo4j not as a data store for a running Sourcecred instance, but more of an analysis tool.
And you're trying to do what?
No, we need to, in this allocation and distribution step, we need to match identities from Sourcecred with the identities from Prase, so we can give the right person the right amount of tokens in the end. We have to see that Ryder. Yeah.
You're specifically talking about identity merging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we only have like a number, if we have a number from Sourcecred and we have a number from Prase, and those aren't the same, then we would have to consider building out a parallel system for matching the identities or something.
I had a few thoughts, like, couldn't we just use the Ethereum address? Because as far as I know, like even in like the trusted seed or at Common Stack, we use the Ethereum address as the main concern for ID, and whenever we're switching things, whenever someone changing their address, we can like make a new identity for them, or
Yes, but
the old ID.
Sorry.
Can I interrupt?
Sorry.
I'm going to interrupt. This is our senior developer, Thina, who's also my housemate, and they have 10 minutes right now to answer questions. So if we want to maybe direct some of the questions towards them for now, in terms of merging identities of Prase with Sourcecred or whatever questions regarding that product, I open up the floor.
Yeah, I guess that there are two questions regarding Sourcecred identities and how we can merge them with the Prase identities. And the first question would be, is there a possibility to store more information connected to a Sourcecred identity so we can sort of store the right type of information to make it easier for us? And also, can we export that data in a good format once the grain is calculated, so we see that this user gets this much grain with this username and this identifier in this like a CSV format that we can easily process?
Yeah, a couple clarifying questions. One, Prase for y'all is a like separate tech stack with a separate OAuth system attached. Okay, cool. So you can definitely add, especially programmatically, there's a lot of options. If you're like trying to write integrations, our ledger has an add alias event type in it, which basically is for the purpose of taking an external platform identity and merging it into a Sourcecred ledger identity. And yeah, if and So it's pretty easy to do for that. Another question, a clarifying question I have is, are you wanting to import data from Prase into Sourcecred to affect the cred? No. Okay, cool. Yeah, then it should be pretty simple. The only question is, how do you verify that like X user maps to Y Discord user or whatever? But if you can, if you have a system for that, then like putting the data into Sourcecred, it's supported. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, and currently we don't have the system for that. So for Prase, we'll do the verification. We use the Ethereum address as the identity identifier, and for activating an account for Prase means that you follow a link from Discord, a unique link connected to your username, and then you sign a message using MetaMask, and thereby connecting your Discord and Ethereum address in like a rather secure way. But that check we cannot do before inputting information into Sourcecred unless we make that into sort of a standalone user verification system. But it's good to know that we can add information to Sourcecred identities. That's a real possibility. If we can use this add alias thing and add like an extra piece of information to help us connect identities, then that's great. And that, sorry.
Quick question. I know how to do that, right? Are you talking about building up a local or something else?
No, it's how to merge existing aliases,
but not to add external. Yeah.
Yeah, this is adding an external alias. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think just knowing that possibility existed, it's maybe all the help we need just now. Or MS or Nugget, would you like to ask something else?
It sounds like a good start, and definitely something good to know and keep in mind. Probably, I would guess that when we do some onboarding flow, that we just kind of use in the same process the alias that we're generating on one side and putting it onto the Sourcecred. But it's great. Yeah, I think it's definitely good news and a good start.
Yeah, we have been maintaining a separate system on the side, connecting Prase usernames or Discord usernames with Ethereum addresses, basically like a Google sheet. So yeah, that would be the sloppiest solution to continue doing that. Just 3 columns, Sourcecred ID, Prase ID, and Ethereum address, and we'll have to match them manually for each user.
Is Prase's OAuth Ethereum addresses?
Yeah, and message signing. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if y'all are using Discord with Sourcecred already, then the Discord. They're not. Oh, okay.
They're using GitHub and just GitHub, right? Or are you using the forum too?
GitHub discourse and hopefully to a meeting tracker bot and in the best of worlds also a Twitter activity tracking bot. But that will be in the future.
Later. Yeah. So not Discord.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The only additional thing is, Ryder, is it okay if I reach out if Nugget and I have questions again, or just?
Are you asking me or Athena?
Both of you.
Yeah.
So Athena gives permission to reach out to them, and if there are more technical questions, it'll probably be for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I reserve some of my time just to do tech support in the ecosystem pro bono. So like usually I'll get back within a couple of days, usually same day, but yeah. So I definitely I have some amount of availability to just do tech support to anyone who's using us. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll be mindful of questions. So I'm all about being succinct and direct and not letting them go on too long.
You're also welcome to do it as you like in the public tech support channel, and then other third-party users can pick up on those answers as well. We're very open with that. And then there's also the tech support channels on Thursdays. I'm just not a dev, so I won't be able to.
No worries.
Yeah.
No, Athena and Ryder, thank you for your helpful answers.
Yeah,
And let's move on to actually a related topic, which is the identity management that I'm currently investigating with two persons involved in Sourcecred, TopoCount and Magwalk. And so just a short status update there is that we, like I said, it's still early research. Is it a good idea to try to create a separate identity management system? But I think this whole discussion shows that it's for the long term it's needed, both for Sourcecred and for us. So we concluded that it makes total sense to try to do it somehow together. And what together means, that time will tell, or we try to figure that out along the way. But currently, so TopoCount is digging into the technology of ceramic and looking on how would our proposed solution look. And me and Magwalk will sort of try to poke holes in his architecture and ask stupid questions.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the status for this. But we don't expect. We're saying we'll move slowly with this. No intention of having it ready by the MVP or the first quants or anything, and so it's somewhere early next year.
Christopher, I honestly see this as like a tangential but very related project, and I want to say that I think I tried to. I told you guys that we were wanting to work on that, and I just want to do you guys have funding for that yet, or do you know what your funding source is going to be? I'm not familiar as much with TEC funding, but I know we were going to do a Stacks grant, and if you want to talk separately, that's fine, but I just wanted to make sure y'all are cared for, because there's a lot of financial stress on the Sourcecred side that I know just like affects our people, even if it's not top of mind. So
yeah. No, we're doing like a first iteration of defining the proposed solution and a description of what we try to achieve, and then I said once we have that, it will be much easier to try to find sources of funding, and then I'd love to talk more about that.
Yeah, so a grant was already started by the dev team like a couple months ago, and I just don't want it to get lost. So yeah, maybe we can talk about that separately. Thank you.
Sure. And so let's move on to the hot topics, which are all related to the rewards committee, basically. Or we'll take the first one first, the second one first. The question about breaking up the first quant, which I personally think is a really good idea. Octopus suggested that instead of doing a humongous, super big quantification of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 praise items times 3, because every item will be quantified by 3 people, we'll break it up and we'll do like 500 praise the first time, the first quant, a little bit to practice and set the routine, and then we work our way through the backlog until we reach present time, and when we reach present time, we start the regular schedule of doing bi-weekly quantifications. Is anyone opposing this? Great, because the task of recruiting like 100 quantifiers would be quite difficult, I think. So it's I think we can just conclude that we'll choose that. We'll break up the first quant. And then for the second hot topic, I had a discussion with Tam about this today, and we're like, wouldn't it be better if the rewards committee was just a regular working group? So I'll just open the floor with that question. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Feels like you reached the point that is we're having weekly meetings already, and there's a whole workload with a lot of people involved.
Yeah, then it becomes sort of a natural part of the whole TEC structure, and it works the same way as all other work groups, and it has to be part of the transparency reporting and
But it doesn't have the same mouthfeel as reward board. No,
it doesn't. But Mitch is not here to be able to, he cannot defend it when he's on vacation. So that's just, we'll just slip this in on his vacation and decide it. No, I was actually expecting at least someone to oppose this, because we had it's first it started out as a committee, then it became a board, and now it's a
reward board.
Why not
Reward
Reward board.
I had like a thought about this. If like the reward committee would be a common working group, that would be a better thing for transparency as well. It's not like a separate layer. And I think especially if someone's handling the rewards for this, we need to audit the people involved more heavily comparatively. So that's going to be beneficial. And something about what you mentioned, like splitting up the praise. I'm wondering, could we like maybe reduce the praise items more? I think 500 per quant is also a lot. Could we like maybe bring it down to 250, then just distribute that over a period?
Yeah, let's have a discussion about that. The Tam and Griff, I think, was like, it's not a huge thing. Tam said that she could do a few hundred herself. So no, I guess many of the praise items still are super simple things, and with an interface where you can quantify them quite quickly. So this and this person from doing that meeting, flip. Many of them take like 1 second each. And then the bigger ones you have to give some deeper consideration.
Can people do multiple quants?
One quantifier.
Yeah. Could I do, if it's 500 per one, can I just ask to do like 7?
Yep. The system will support it technically. We can set up praise periods and open them for quantification, and more than one period can be open for quantification at the same time. So basically, we can divide up the whole period from June till present time. We can divide up in praise periods and assign to quantifiers.
Are you asking if you could select the amount of praise you want to quantify? Because I don't think that would be a good idea.
Or at least just do 2 or 3 sets. I mean, I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. I'm not prescriptive of whether it's good or bad. I'm just curious if that's possible.
You mean in the same
But you mean no? Sorry.
No, just asking if you mean it in the same period or in separate periods.
I meant in the same period, but it makes sense that we're separating the first period thing into like lots of periods. But in the same period, is that possible?
I think the risk there is that you would be quantifying the same thing twice, which kind of defeats the purpose of having different people do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, if you're like splitting it up and spacing out the praise, would we be like just splitting the whole thing into pieces, or would we be like doing some form of like splitting the specific praise for a specific user into pieces and then bundling it up into like parts?
Yeah, there is an algorithm. I'm not sure if I'm answering the right question now, but sorry, could you maybe rephrase that? I'm not sure I get it.
So my question was, could we be taking like the 2000 items are there and like divide them into 4 like randomly, 4 pieces randomly, or would we be like looking at the like praise and looking at specific praise per user and then dividing that? Like just to be fair, because I think like the amount of like praise you get also like affects the amount of reward you get, and since the price is dynamic, it would make sense to like make it fair by distributing equally. I don't know, something like that.
the way the quantification is done in the new system is that you set a praise period, so it's based on dates, not on the persons or number of praise items. So when I say let's take 500 items, we would have to see like, okay, 500 praise items, that is roughly the first week. So then let's do the first week as one praise period, and that praise then would be divided up over a number of quantifiers using an algorithm that makes sure that it's evenly split between the quantifiers and that each praise is being quantified by at least 3 people, etc.
But we also have praise being divided by people, right? Like that one quantifier would have the praise of, let's say someone is quantifying 5 people. Like it would be, he would receive the amount of praise, and if one person received 100 praise and the other received 30, like that would be divided into numbers of praise, but they would have access to the whole person.
Yes, they not only access to the whole person, they would have to quantify all. So if that situation occurred, like one person would have to quantify 100 praise, and another person would have to quantify 30. But the algorithm will be smart enough to see that if it's a situation where there's one person with 100 praise and then there's 3 persons with 30, then one quantifier will get 3 times 30, 90, and the other person will get 100. So it will try to even things out. But when you quantify, you always quantify all the praise for one person for one period, so you can identify duplicates, etc. Can we move on, or do we have anything more on this? So then let's talk about the rewards committee, or the X rewards committee. But just pointing out that we still have two processes, or we have the rewards upgrade process or project, which this is about, us taking us to the point where we can do the first quantification, and then there's the sort of the daily grind of the bi-weekly quantifications, etc., that will be handled then by the reward board committee work group.
Christopher, I'm sorry, I missed the ball for a second, and maybe it's best to bring it up now, because we still had a couple of questions from we got a bit sidetracked with the identity thing, but for our group, we still wanted to bring up a couple of questions. So maybe now is the time before we move on to something else.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, mainly the thing is, for this allocation system, do we want to keep it 50-50 Prase and Sourcecred, or do we want to rebalance it 60-40, or what is the situation there? Is there a consensus, or what do you guys think?
I think that's something that's going to be decided by the committee. So maybe we should schedule a call to look into that, because we would have to look into the data we have from Sourcecred so far that is still running the instance, and then see like maybe the analysis from our last quant and how they balance out, like what types of work is being rewarded from each side, and what would be the most fair from that balance.
Okay, great. Then we definitely need to do that. Sorry.
Would it make sense just to do a test praise quant and then adjust the numbers with the test data? Like as in take some real praise in it for a real period, do a full praise quant, and then adjust that parameter based off of what makes a decent, like a reasonable result according to the reward board, and then just pick that number for the, and continue to tweak it?
I think I'd
You
like
mean
to
'cause the-
propose that we make the first quantification. We make that into the not the dress rehearsal, but it will be the first. We do a smaller first quantification using real data for both Sourcecred and Prase, and then we can evaluate that. And if we see that or we haven't decided the distribution beforehand, so we use that quantification and then we analyze it and decide the distribution between Prase and Sourcecred after we have done that quantification and use that going forward then.
Rewards dashboard.
Sorry?
Rewards dashboard. We need a rewards dashboard. Is there maybe it's best to use the most recent data to do that test so that it makes sense to people in their mind when they're evaluating it? Because using data from 3 months ago might be difficult.
Absolutely. For Prase, that is totally doable. I don't know if we can evaluate just a small part of the Sourcecred data, or just take the latest data. That we'll have to check that if that is doable technically. We can?
Yeah, it's been running ever since. We're just not rewarding anyone from that, but we have the data.
Yeah, but can we export like any period we want? So can we say like calculate grain for the past 2 weeks and ignore all of history?
I think so. What, Mateo? What do you say?
Yeah, it's possible.
Nice. Oh, then we'll do it that way.
Cool. One question about Sourcecred also. Do we want to will Sourcecred also calculate the whole token distribution, or do we want to do it separately on our separate rewards analysis dashboard?
Don't understand.
So the question is, do we want to kind of take the raw Sourcecred data and the raw Prase data and calculate all the token rewards together, or do we want to just expect that Sourcecred on itself gives us a number of tokens to be distributed on their behalf, and then we just put it together with the Prase data?
That's kind of the parameters that we need to set up, right? So like with Sourcecred, we're going to see in the parameters what like how much each action is rewarded, and then that's what gives us the grain number, that like if we give a total amount of tokens that will be distributed, then it will be distributed according to the grain that was set up on Sourcecred. So the only part that we decide is how much we're allocating for that distribution. And then the Prase will be a different step where we'll have all of the quantification. And then we also need to decide a number that will be sent to like each respective person with the amounts they got from the quants.
Okay, cool. That answers the question. Thank you.
So can we go into?
Sorry, yeah, I'm done. We can continue. Sorry to hold this up.
Do you mind if I just take 10 seconds here, just for my own edification? So I'm just thinking procedurally. So what we're going to do in order of operations is a sample quant, and then there's going to be conversations with the rewards working group around parameters around that, right? So kind of like an iterative process there. And then we'll have information and outputs we expect from that would help with the analysis side. Is that kind of the flow we're imagining?
Yeah, but this also is like would be the dress rehearsal for the real quant. So basically everything would have to be done before we're doing this step, and then we can tweak if something seems odd when we do the dry run or the dress rehearsal, then we can tweak it before we do the real thing. But it's not something we do now in order to build the whole thing. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure we have the initial parameter assumptions we want for the actual analysis side. So cool. Thank you.
We can schedule a separate analysis session if you like. Also, MS and Nuggin, we can dig into the details more.
Yep. Yeah. I'll connect with Nuggin, and then we'll reach out Christopher and
Cool.
set something up.
So some of the things that we couldn't cover last time that now we have a different perspective maybe of creating a working group for, when you imagine a working group, Christopher, is for all the stuff rewards, or you want to keep two separate threads with the product development? And I think they're all connected because
or you can see it in two ways, I guess. Either you see it as a development project that sort of dies out once we have started the regular quants, or and the other group takes over, or it's one group, one project that slowly merges from being a development project into being a working group.
I like the second option better. I don't know what you guys think, because I think we can just the discussions we're having, they're all overlapping somehow.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just merge this time and slot that we have into a working group session, and then slowly tackle all of the things. And if there's stuff that we don't have time to cover in this call, then separate into sub projects and have with people in other times. How does that sound for everyone, especially the people who are in the committee, the board? Do you all think that is a good use of time to come to this full call and learn about the whole process and keep up to date? Or is it better that we have a separate call to go through all of the steps that we have here, just in a time commitment type of way?
I mean, having a time which already works for all of us, I think it's something good and important. I could, for me, it wouldn't be a problem to find another time to make some extra call, but I think maybe using what we have is a good idea. But if you have time for it, I think, Christopher, maybe start with 250. I don't know. Yeah.
And we're seeing an emerging pattern here with the weekly developer calls, and that is that most of the developers cannot attend this meeting. So we haven't been talking so much development. So YYV is here, but mostly I'm reporting from the Prase development, and so I think it's fine that let's let's keep doing this on this time. I think that works fine. Let's talk about the whole process up to the quant, and also about the stuff needed after when the weekly schedule gets going.
Okay, that's great. So the next thing we need to figure it out, I wanted to talk about the compensation, pace of work, time commitment, but I feel like this can develop into a proposal for funding, like all of the other working groups are doing, and this makes it easier. So we can work on that async, and then I think the next step would be just setting up a time to set up Sourcecred parameters. I think is the most urgent thing that we have now. Just start looking into what we have from Sourcecred already. So maybe Matteo, if you could, I don't know how is your time, but if you could pull that data and kind of facilitate a call that we could look into it and open the parameters again, and then start to just have an idea for when we have this first Prase quant, we are aware of both of the systems, and we can compare them.
Sure. Did we decide to go with the last 2 weeks or last month? So I gathered that data.
What do you say, Christopher?
He wants to know how much time of data you want him to pull, like last 2 weeks to last month.
No, yeah.
It depends on how much data. Does anyone have an idea about how many like Prase items or how much data builds up over a month or 2 weeks?
I don't, because I'm most familiar with the Discord plugin.
No, either way, I would say that the more time that we use, the better data that we have. So maybe 1 month, I would say. 2 weeks could be like too little. Yeah.
If you're willing to pair with me and I could like watch you do that, I'd be really into that. And if it's too inconvenient, like to match up, that's fine too. But I would be interested in watching that.
Perfect.
And then I saw like Livia like starting to collaborate us again, and or like bring us into these topics again. And the pollen bot is sitting there without somebody saying who's interested in it. And I've set one up once and like rebranded it for Balancer, and that was interesting. It's on our list at Sourcecred to generalize it, but it's not yet. So that will be like just extra work on the part of us, of this team for now. But I'm definitely interested in pairing on the pollen bot. So just putting that out there as far as async work. And there's also the thing about money and roles. Like, I just feel like I haven't even gotten to work with anybody yet. And it's hard to know how much I'm going to work if I don't know what I'm working on. And so we're building to that, I think. And it was a great, you tabled it, and I think it was a great table. And what I see is that we need to build our flow and know each other better. And then we'll have an idea of what we're doing together and alone. Because we are trying to bridge so many things. And Christopher's already talking about what he's going to have built next year, and like, and it's tangential to this, and what is this actual build? Like, wow, so many questions to answer. And I barely know anyone in the room, and like, I need to know people I work with. So I have a lot of like relational build to make as well. So I just want to say that, be transparent with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I felt building up into. Also, that's why I think it will be great to have this proposal for compensation coming in soon. We have the pace of work set up and all of the things that we're starting to work with. So we can plan to look into the Sourcecred parameters for next week, if that works for everyone. And I think that should be the next step.
I'm gonna drop
who are the people
drop their link so that if anyone wants to work with me, they can see that publicly in the rewards channel. Sorry for interrupting, Livia.
Cool, thank you. And who are the people that are going to be involved in it? So I think for the first process, just coming up with the data, then Mateo and Ryder, and then for looking into it, it should be everyone in the committee, and that's the point that we can have this critical look into it. And do you think, Christopher, we can have this test Prase quant happening until next week, or that's too optimistic?
We couldn't be using the Prase system for doing the quantification until next week. No.
How long do you think that would take, just for us to have like a very first test?
We had set like November 30 as our deadline before. I know that we are slightly behind schedule, but I can bring it up with Rudolf, who does the back end, and it also depends on the front end resources we have, which currently we need support there.
So maybe we can start recruiting the quantifiers already, and just like starting a list of people. Is there anyone particularly interested in that? Anyone from the committee?
I can be if anyone else on the committee doesn't want to.
I'm interested in this process. Can you maybe describe what you're looking for with a quantifier?
Thorough.
What?
Honest, fast. No, it's
Autistic. I got it. Honest, fast, and autistic. That's me. Me, Durgadas, and Aloysius. Boom. No, sorry. Coordinate with comms to recruit quantifiers and add them to the dashboard. Can you tell me what quantifiers are? Is this a Prase thing?
yeah. The quantifiers will be assigned a list of Prase items for the Prase period that we are quantifying, and you will use the Prase admin dashboard to do the actual quantification, and that means looking at each item and choosing a Prase score for that item.
Oh my gosh. One of these days, I'm going to have a small crisis with you guys about praise versus props. Like it's going to have to come out at some point, and we're going to need to talk about it. But you want us to recruit quantifiers, not become them. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to become the unless you want to double task. But the idea is that the committee finds people who are keen to quantify, and that they could be available there for to be called on whenever we have a quant process. So ideally, it's people that will participate in one, but also be willing to participate in other quantifications, and we need to instruct them on how to do it. So this step now is going to be very high level, just explaining to people where we at, and that this first quant is coming up soon, and that we'll have many more details when the full product is built. But just starting to get people's attention and oh, I want to quantify. I want to be learning. It's a great opportunity to learn of what is happening in the community, because you get to read everything that people value. So that is a great incentive, especially for newcomers who are joining, and people that are more experienced too, that maybe got out of the loop for a minute and then are coming back. It would be great to have Tui involved in this too, if you will, Tui, just to help on the comms aspect of it.
Yes, of course, Livy. I still don't really have a clear what the if we're looking for people that are neutral to the community in a way, or what the purpose of an open recruitment is.
Is there a forum post about the role?
This is another point. We need, there's 2 forum posts now, one explaining where we at with the reward system development, another one with the praise rules. So both of them explain a little bit the quantification process, but we should write another one that explains fully what a quantifier is. What is this role? Why do we want them?
What I can do is interview a couple of people of high context, like you and another person or something, and write that from a perspective of someone who would be the kind of person who would be reading it and learning from it. Or it can be, a high context person can be tasked with it. But I'll just offer, if that sounds valuable, then I could interview 1 or 2 people, or talk to 2 people at once that can collaborate with me, and I can do the documentation for what a quantifier is and what we're looking for at this juncture, maybe a little bit of the lineage, and then where we are now with it. And that can clarify some of the questions we're asking. The other idea I had was that, and maybe you said this with talking to Chewy, but Communitas seems like a good place to recruit people for this position. And maybe Omega as well.
I'm wondering, is there for the first quant, would we be doing a call or something of the sort, or would it be asynchronous?
It will
For
be
the first
asynchronous.
real quant, not for the dress rehearsal. Yeah?
For the real contra.
Yeah, I know that there is this intention of doing the
Because
async.
like
Yeah, those the quantification that is one of the goals with the new system is being able to quantifiers should be able to work at their own pace over a number of days that we set, and then after we set an end date that you have to be finished with your quantifications before this date, and then we do a group session after that date. And then all the quantifiers gather and they can look over the total amount of data and have a discussion and see if something needs to be adjusted.
so one thing that I've noticed is I've attended a few of those of the previous quantification rounds, and I see like many people would not actually have like up to date idea about what's going on. So how do we like bridge that information to them? Like for example, a praise can be about, yeah, someone did XYZ work, but like how do we actually convey the impact of XYZ work to them? Like usually in the previous quants, like there was a call and Griff was there, so Griff was like that this was XYZ work. So like do we encourage people to be like more up on the track, and how do we like ensure that our like people who are gonna be doing this process are up to date about things? So that
let me just reflect shortly on that. The hopes are, of course, that the quantifiers will be active members of the community and that they have a fairly good grasp of what is happening. But the intention here is to, if each praise is quantified by 3 people, and then we're doing a session after the quantifications is done, and you look through the total amount of data, and you see that 2 people have valued one contribution. They have given it a really high number, and the third person has given it a really low number. Then that would be a signal telling us that maybe that person, the third person, was not aware that this was a huge contribution, and then that could be corrected by the group in that at that stage. But of course, if all 3 quantifiers had given that praise item, that contribution, a really low number, meaning that all 3 of the quantifiers didn't know what was happening in the community and therefore gave that contribution a really low score, that is a more difficult problem to solve. Of course, if the people quantifying don't know what is happening, and then maybe the solution would be to have for the next quantification, we say no. Now each praise has to be quantified by 5 people, so we guarantee that at least 1 or 2 actually really know about what this was about. Or no, it's not an easily solvable problem.
I'm wondering, like in the second version or the third version, could we have some form of like community activeness scale or something like that, that like we can somehow rig rig's the wrong word here, but yeah, rig praise to have like at least 1/3 of the like if like at least ensure that at least like 1/3 of the total pool of quantifiers that are active at a certain moment are people that have been that are like relatively active in the community. I'm not sure how we track activeness, but yeah, could be something interesting.
We
I hear
we
that
could.
we need.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just I think we need to do some kind of session where we before we do the dry run, we also need to do a session where we do a dry run of the process, just to get everyone up to speed on or up to date on. This is how we see the whole process running. So we'll do a session focused on just discussing all these things in more depth, because now we're starting to run out of time. And yeah.
Sure.
Liv, did you have anything more to bring up before we close this, or should we call it a day?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that we can have onboarding sessions too with the quantifiers, and then like little by little build that understanding up. Like now we're kind of in the dark also with all of this, but yeah, sorry for running over time. And I think the best way should be for us to coordinate on the chat. I think there's a lot of things that we can figure it out just in the chat, in the reward system, and then next call we don't need to go on over so many times.
Yeah, a lot of things came up today. I will listen. I will look at the video if Septi made a recording, and I'll try to identify all the different items and add them to the notes afterwards, so we don't lose any good ideas. Thank you everyone for coming today. This is messy just now, and it's noisy, but it will become clearer once we. Yeah, it will become clearer.